Sup flappers, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the potential of Baal buffs and whether MiHoYo will be making these moves. I'm going to go over everything that I've seen from the community, concerns, positives, negatives, and really come to a conclusion as to why I think whether MiHoYo is going to buff Baal or not. So first and foremost, if you haven't watched my video from yesterday, I won't be talking over everything regarding the CN community's concerns and whatnot, but I will touch on a couple here and there as we get to these points. Okay, now without further ado, if you guys enjoyed these kind of videos, like, subscribe. I make them all the time, so let's get right into the video. First and foremost, let's start immediately at the current situation with Raiden and the community backlash, because I think a lot of people who are not as in tune with the community are probably banking on the fact that the community, or CN community in particular, makes enough noise or splash in the water to the point where MiHoYo decides, okay, we're gonna buff Raiden. And if you are one of those people who is hoping for this level of drama within the CN community, I have bad news for you right now. Currently, Raiden is simply not as talked about as Zhongli was, because right now we have to look at Zhongli because that's the level of uprising we would have to have in order for Raiden to potentially get a buff. Now, Raiden is not in as devastating of a position as Zhongli apparently was. I'm not saying Zhongli was completely useless or something like that, but the CN community was more upset with Zhongli's state than they are with Raiden's. The CN community is simply not in as much of an uproar as when Zhongli was underperforming in their eyes. While there have been concerns, it's more analytical ones rather than emotional ones like they had with Zhongli. Because realistically speaking, if we just look at Raiden, it's very easy to see that a lot of the solutions are available to us currently, but they're locked behind Constellations. I'll talk about this a little later, because before we talk about Constellations, we have to talk about her at Constellation 0 without Constellation, because a good chunk of the people who are upset with this character are free-to-play players who have C0 Baal, and they do think that she is underperforming in this category by quite a bit. Now, I know there are people right now currently saying that Baal has a specific playstyle, meaning you have to stack as much energy regen on her as you can, and I do agree, C0 Baal has her play around, but it's not as good as a lot of people may think. Currently, the community consensus is just to build her with as much ER as possible and just spam burst skills for your entire team. Well, I can agree that's a fun way to play Raiden, and in some cases it could be strong as well. It's not going to work for certain scenarios. People call it a brain dead way to play Genshin in most cases. Even then, it's not as brain dead friendly as we'd like to think, because with the Abyss being time gated, every time you use your burst skill animation, it's taking up unnecessary time out of your run. To top it off, many players do not even need multiple burst skill rotations to clear the floors, and it becomes an excessive function to your gameplay. Now, with that said, I do have to point out that Raiden has some of the craziest power-ups from her constellations, making them somewhat of a necessity if you want to unlock her full potential. Unlike characters such as Ganyu, who comes broken right out the box, Raiden requires some DLC purchases. But man, does she get way stronger. Now, to help you guys understand and put this into perspective just how much stronger Baal's constellation would be for her, take a look at this chart. Now, this chart shows the characters as Constellation Zeros, Constellation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 in a simple DPS test. At the top, you have Ganyu, and then we got Diluc Jinyan. I know this is a bit of an older chart, but stay with me here. I'm simply trying to help you guys understand how insane Baal's constellations are. So you see with Ganyu, the green bit in the line is her Constellation 1 boost. The blue part, very tiny there, is her Constellation 2, and then purple is Constellation 3, orange is Constellation 4, yellow is Constellation 5, and red is Constellation 6. So if Baal were to be on this list, she would start much lower than Ganyu because her C0 inherently is very, very weak. But as you get constellations, you will see Constellation 1 taking up a bigger portion of Baal than it would for most characters, and as you get into Constellation 2 and 3, eventually you you can reach up to 80% of her entire bar. And put that into perspective, Ganyu's entire C1 to C6 boost doesn't even account for an 80%. In fact, it looks to be around 30 to 35% power up. And Baal immediately comes in at Constellation 3 with up to 80% of a power boost compared to her Constellation 0. Now, that's how crazy her constellations are. And that is how much power is locked behind her constellations. So when we continuously ask, hey, MiHoYo, when is Raiden Baal A going to get a buff? And the answer is already here. Look at it on screen, people. The buff is already here. It's just that you gotta pay for it. Now, after saying all that, I think one of the main things I want to get across to you guys is that we are currently looking in the wrong place. I mentioned this in my video yesterday, and I think that was at the core of what I wanted to say, what the CN community wanted to say, and I guess what the community in general just wants to say. Baal, Raiden A, whatever you want to call her, is a very fun and strong, capable character. However, she is not able to sit atop the throne, the tier list, whatever you guys want to call it. I know, cringe, yes, I say this all the time. I myself am not a meta player, but I make these videos for people to get an understanding of where the issue lies, where it's coming from, and maybe a potential solution. What's stopping Raiden from being a top tier character is simply the fact that she is an electro based unit. And a lot of people have trouble wrapping their heads around this very concept. And it's that, how can you say she's good, yet she's electro? So how is electro bad, right? So that's what people are saying. Like, if electro is bad, then Baal by default cannot be good. But the thing is, Baal is designed in a way where she offers a lot of utility and specialties to your team that other characters simply cannot do. While there are replacements for different parts of what she can do, she herself comes as a whole unit, whereas those replacements simply function as one individual solution to a multitude of problems that may come up, which Baal can solve by herself. So in that way, she is irreplaceable. But with her elemental skill, not being able to destroy abyss shields, at the same time disrupting your team's core reactions, forcing you into an electro-based reaction, you have to understand that by playing Baal in this particular way, you are heavily reliant on the electro element, and with the electro element itself being lackluster, or in this case, people are saying weak, that is why we say Baal is being held back, not because of her kit, not because of her design, mostly because of her element. Yes, there will still be remaining issues, even if, let's say, if Baal were pyro, hydro, cryo, whatever, there will still be problems with her kit. But let me tell you, reaction wise, team pairing wise, you would open up a new dimension of possibilities. And you guys want to know what's the real kicker at the end of all of this? Is that when you're making record breaking sales on a banner, what indications are there to tell you to change something, right? That's at the very end of it. MiHoYo's here trying to make money. They made a character, they built this whole world, this whole nation, a concept around her, and she worked. It worked. Everything fell together, fell into place. They made huge bucks. They set a new 2-day revenue record. So what indications are there to make changes? None. I'll answer that for you guys right now. None whatsoever. If we're looking at numbers, if we're looking at this from a business perspective, it worked. They can continue doing this, rinse and repeat until it doesn't work. That's how it has to be, right? So no matter how we look at this, it's very unlikely for MiHoYo to make any additional changes to Raiden. However, that doesn't mean in the future that we won't be seeing electro changes. So if electro changes ever do come through, Raiden herself would also be elevated into the upper levels. With that said, thank you guys for watching. I look forward to seeing you guys in tomorrow's video. And while you're here, comment below what you think regarding the current Raiden situation. And until tomorrow's video, stay safe and peace.